Welcome to our council meeting and welcome to those watching online. The City of Swan disclaims any liability for any loss arising from any person or body relying on any statement, discussion, recommendation or decision made during this meeting. Where an application for an approval, a licence or the like is considered or determined during this meeting, the City warns that neither the applicant nor any other person or body should rely upon that discussion or determination until written notice of either approval and the conditions which relate to it or the refusal of that application has been issued by the City. Please note that this meeting is being live streamed and recording will also be archived and made available on the City's website after the meeting. Visual images of the public will not be captured. Conditions of entry: no electronic, visual or audio recording or transmitting device or instrument is permitted to be used. A person who breaches this provision of the City of Swan Meeting Procedures Local Law 2019 will be required to immediately leave the premises. Attendance and apologies. We have Councillor Parry on leave. Are there any other apologies, Mr CEO?
No, everyone else present, Mr Mayor.
Declaration of financial and proximity interest and interest affecting impartiality. There have been no changes to those declarations since the 23rd of September. Councillors, before we commence, there is just a correction to the minutes. In regards to the minutes of the special meeting of Council on the 24th of August that were confirmed at this meeting on the 23rd, staff have identified a correction that needs to be made in that the fors and against were recorded the wrong way around, and the correction is in the folder. So I just need someone to move that they be accepted. Moved Councillor Lucas, another seconder. Councillor Jones, is anyone against? It looked like that carried. Okay, councillors, we pick up where we left off last Wednesday on item 311, which is the State Administrative Tribunal reconsideration of refusal of 6 security patrols and associated infrastructure at 206 number 136 Swan Street. We have a mover in Councillor McCulloch and seconding Councillor McNamara, both of which have spoken. Councillor Scanlon and Councillor Kiley have also spoken against the motion. So I call, is there any speaker?
Mr Mayor, I'll be leaving the chamber as I've declared financial interest.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. We'll wait for you to leave. Okay, councillors, speaker for the motion. Any other speakers against the motion? Are there any others? Councillor Dominic.
Okay, so I'm speaking against this motion. So the big issue here is visual amenity, and these 6 poles stand out. And the last time this proposal came to council, we knocked it back. And here it is again, but not greatly changed. In May, council decided to refuse an application for 6 security poles for 3 reasons. The poles had an adverse visual impact on the streetscape of Swan Street and on the landscape of the Swan River foreshore. 2, they also had an adverse impact on the neighbours on both the east and west sides. 3, poles 4, 5 and 6 are on the Swan River floodplain, and the Department of Biodiversity does not support the height or the location of these poles. So the applicant went back to the drawing board and resubmitted modified plans. Only the latest plans don't change the height and location of poles 4, 5 and 6, which are still on the floodplain. Nor does it fully address the 3 reasons we knocked this proposal back in the first place. The latest application still has an adverse visual impact on the streetscape of Swan Street and on the landscape of the Swan River foreshore. Although it now addresses the adverse impact of the amenity of neighbours on the west side, it still does not address the impact on the neighbours on the east side of the property. Poles 4, 5 and 6 are still on the Swan River floodplain, and the Department of Biodiversity still doesn't support the height or the location of these poles. Put simply, the 3 reasons we knocked this proposal back in the first place still remain unaddressed in the latest application. The Department of Biodiversity recommends a different way of applying a security system instead of using poles. It suggests cameras and lights can be attached to the other existing approved structures. Stick it on a wall, stick it nearby, just not on an 8-metre pole in the middle of a floodplain. SAT is giving us an invitation to reconsider, and I'm asking Council to please support our original decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Speaker for the motion. Any other speakers for or against? Councillor McCulloch, as a mover, you'd like to close the debate.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, what is on the table before us tonight is a result of SAP mediation. We have been invited to reconsider after a considerable mediation, and I will remind Council that only 2 councillors attended that mediation, and it's probably something where a lot of the issues or further concerns that have come to light in the last few days could have possibly been best addressed as part of that mediation as well. So yes, we have been invited to reconsider. Yes, there is an amended item before us in response to those 3 reasons that Council rejected this item previously. Councillors, I think we've spent many minutes in debate, questions of applicants, questions and responses from community. I think we just need to come down to the fact that it does fit within planning framework. And it's important that we are responding to and assessing items based on relevant and connected planning considerations. We've also heard much debate around issues and concerns not relevant to the planning framework that surrounds this item. I think also, councillors, that you would have received an email from the applicant today correcting some conceptions, misconceptions and information that was not necessarily factual in previous debate and questioning. And I think, councillors, that it is important that we are responding to and assessing items based on the facts and not based on potential hearsay or his truth, her truth and someone else's truth. Councillors, we have to refer it back to a framework, to a process, and to mainly and duly consider what's before us and how it fits within that. So I'll leave it there. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Culloch. I put the vote. Those in favour? 1. Councillor Henderson, Councillor McCulloch, Councillor Jones, Councillor Congdon, myself. The request against. Most is lost. Takes us now, councillors, to item 3.8.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, we don't have a motion in, so we're not advising anything of the... We've got no motion to move forward to SAP.
Doesn't it go back to its original decision?
The previous motion, council still stands.
Stands.
Yep.
Okay. Is that, just a minute, I'll just check.
Is that correct, Ms Albright? Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, 3.8 is adoption of the Morrison Road Local Area Plan. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you very much. My motion is that Council resolve to defer the adoption of the Morrison Road Local Development Plan until the City...
Sorry, 1 second, Councillor. We've just got to recall the Deputy Mayor. We miss him. Okay. Carry on, Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll start again. My motion is that Council resolve to defer the adoption of the Morrison Road Local Development Plan until the City has requested permission to conduct a heritage assessment, and where permission has been given, to conduct the heritage assessment of the properties previously agreed to be assessed as follows. Lot 100, number 20 to 22 Morrison Road, and Lot 72, number 30, Lot 5, number 32, Lot 4, number 34, Lot 3, number 36, Lot 2, number 38, Lot 1, number 2, Lot 2, number 2A, Lot 67, numbers 4 to 6, Lot 68, number 8, Lot 69, number 22, and Lot 70, number 24, Byers Road, Midland. And the reason for changing the officer's recommendation, the development plan may need to change as a result of the heritage assessment.
Do I have a seconder? Did he? I think it might have been Councillor Catalano. Is anyone against? Okay, question, Councillor Lucas.
Thank you. Through you to the relevant staff member. First question is, How many heritage assessments is the city currently undertaking?
Mr Vendlin.
Mr Mayor, the short answer to that is that we've got a request at the moment cumulatively for the assessment of 38 lots. That came up as a result of several requests. We've had a request on the 3rd of June by petition from the Midland Society for 9 properties on Midland Oval and 40 Byers Road. On the 1st of July, there was a council motion to do assessment of Checkers Hotel and Darling Range Hotel. And then on the 26th of August, we received another petition from Midland Society for properties along Bayers, Sayer North, Frederick Street, Elvire Street, Morrison Road, Spring Park Road and Stafford Street. That's another 14 properties. And then this item in front of you tonight, we're recommending there that another 12 properties be assessed. So that then adds up to a total of 38 lots.
Thank you. My next question is, would or could it be advantageous to the city to undertake all assessments together rather than piecemeal?
Mr Vendlin.
Mr Mayor, where we're at the moment in this process, it will certainly be our preference to conduct all the heritage assessments all at once. Get it done by one consultant to ensure a consistent approach is applied in that assessment. So we still have the one motion or the petition of the 26th of August that will come back to council at the October meeting. And once we've got a resolution on those, our preference will certainly be to do them all together.
Thank you. My last question for now. Is there any correlation or nexus between the adoption of the Morrison Road local area plan and the heritage assessments of houses in the LAP or anywhere else in the city?
Mr Vendlin.
Mr Mayor, the purpose of the local development plan relates mainly to providing centralised access to Morrison Road and to promote amalgamation of the lots. So in my view, it wouldn't impact, or the assessment of the heritage properties won't impact the focus of the local development plan. Because if you consider that amalgamated lots that entails a heritage building on it actually allows for a larger lot to contain that heritage building as part of a future development. So that's easier to retain that heritage building on a larger amalgamated lot. So the heritage assessment or the outcome of that assessment won't impact the outcome of the local development plan.
Thank you.
Okay. Now,
I'm against.
you're against? You wish to debate it?
Yes, please.
Okay. Councillor Johnson, if you'd like to start the debate.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. And thank you, Mr Van der Linde, for those answers to those questions. Councillors, can I ask you to turn to page 271 in your board books agenda, which is page 267 in the paper agenda. I'll just do that myself right there. And there you will see a plan of the site. So you'll see a triangle. And at the bottom of that triangle towards the lot inside that green area, you'll see there are lots 5, 72 and 71 on Byers Road. Now, councillors, lots 71, 6 and 96 are empty blocks, but lots 5 and 72 have houses on them which are to be heritage assessed. In my view, it's my opinion, notwithstanding what we've heard from Mr Leon van der Linde, there's not a lot of point in approving a local development plan designed to permit the consolidation of the lots if 2 of the lots might have heritage houses on them. If you're going to retain a heritage house, you need to retain it on its lot. It doesn't need to be consolidated. This part of Byers Road has a fine streetscape with a mix of heritage and low-rise newer homes. It is a beautiful street. If you were to walk down this street, you're in Midland, or you're in Woodbridge more accurately, but you might think you're in Nedlands or Claremont. It's that nice. It's a beautiful place to live. Council, surely, or Mr Mayor, surely we should be seeking to preserve this Byers Road streetscape. And that means retaining those two houses that are on that consolidated lot. They may need to be retained. So, Mr Mayor, Byers Road has been here for 150 years. I think we can wait just a few months more for a development plan for this area, and the wait is justified by the need to get the heritage assessments completed before we approve a plan for the consolidation of lots. If the houses on lots 5 and 72 have heritage value at levels 1 or 2, then consolidation of title would not be appropriate. An older house needs to stay on its original title. So, Mr Mayor, I say let's wait a few more months until the heritage assessment is complete. It's just a few months in the 150-year history of this street. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Catalano, second. Have you got anything to add?
Yes, thank you. Yes, this is basically to allow us time to actually find out if there are qualities to those houses and that streetscape that we should take into consideration in actually approving this local area plan. And it's basically not putting the... Basically, it's putting the horse before the cart so that we've got it in the right order, not the cart before the horse. Now, I understand that heritage is often seen as an impost for property owners, and I mean, I do understand that is an issue, but I think also we really have to recognise that heritage is a big bonus and it's a big plus for the City of Swan, where we have 100-year-old towns and streetscapes. And we see this in other parts of Perth, throughout Mount Lawley, Fremantle, Leederville, examples where cottages have been converted into and repurposed into really successful offices, bars, restaurants, and it works. And I mean, we don't even have to go that far. We go to Guildford, and any day of the week it is thriving, and perhaps it may even be the most lively and thriving part of the city, and that's because of the heritage. It really is a commercial bonus. Now, Midland has got its heritage, it's got its historical cottages, and that's what I've presented tonight with this little photographs. This is the kind of streetscape that's down there, and potentially that's a gold mine for people, residents down that street, but also for larger developers who want to build the big unit developments along Morrison Road, if some of these buildings are retained and repurposed. Byers Road, it's a fantastic example of a reasonably intact early 20th century streetscape in Midland, and also not only have we got Byers Road, but then there's William Street and Burgess Street, which are all contained within this local area plan, and they have all also got their heritage cottages and buildings that are just ripe for repurposing. And, you know, let's even just go more local. Let's go down to Cale Street, cast our mind down to Cale Street and look at how successful those old school buildings have been for Cale Street and for as commercial and small for small business. Small businesses, as well as residential. So we can have a really great mix down at, in this local area plan. So I think, and the reason why these heritage buildings are so successful is because actually people really do like to engage with them, even if they are repurposed. So The reason why I'm standing tonight is because I want to implore you to actually. I want to basically let council know that there is still a lot of very good quality old buildings in Midland that can be repurposed, that will add to the commercial vibrancy of the town, but that'll also be a great community asset in terms of local identity and social sort of capital, you know. And I think that's reflected in the submissions that were made to council on this matter, because overwhelming majority of those submissions really did ask the city to engage with the heritage of the area and to look at assessing those properties. And out of that, we have now got this the council recommendation to do so. But I think with supporting this deferral tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to get a better picture if we defer it. When the local area plan comes back, we'll know what kind of condition those buildings are in. Already on the south side of Byers Road.
That's your 5 minutes. Councillor Lucas, Speaker against the motion.
Thank you. And the reason I'm speaking against it, councillors, is I note the change for the officer's recommendation. The reason is that the development plan may need to change as a result of the heritage assessment. And that's exactly why I asked the question of the planning staff. Was there any correlation between the adoption of the Morrison Road local area plan and the heritage assessments which will be undertaken? And the answer was no, there's not. This is all about safe access for people who live on William Street, Sayer Street and Byers Road to safely enter onto Morrison Road or use another street. So there's two issues and they're being confused. One is about safe access to Morrison Road, which is what the local area plan is about, the development plan, and the other is about heritage assessment, and I fully support the assessment of all those. In fact, I'd like to combine all the requests for assessments of buildings within the city so they're done at the one time rather than piecemeal, so we can have the 2 hotels mentioned and the numerous residential properties heritage assessed at the same time, so everything comes back to council in a timely manner or the best manner possible. But there is no correlation between the adoption of a traffic plan and, having read the submissions and the officer's response, the increase on traffic along those streets within the plan will be negligible. It's all about safer access to Morrison Road, and the road widening of Morrison Road is a separate issue altogether. It's not even part of this plan, so don't confuse. The heritage assessment may change the requirement to have a local development plan. It doesn't, and that's why I can't support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lucas. Speaker for the motion. Now, speakers against the motion.
I've got a question, Mr Mayor, if I may.
Question, Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, my question is to the staff. When I was reading this item, I noticed that the title of it is 3.8, Adoption of Morrison Road Local Area Plan, but then it goes on to talk about the local development plan. I've just heard there's a difference between the two, but we seem to be titling it local area plan, but it is a local development plan. Can there be an explanation, please?
Mr Vendling.
Mr Mayor, that is an error. The heading of the report should be the adoption of Morrison Road Local Development Plan.
Thank you.
Okay. Go back. Any speakers for the motion? Any other speakers for or against? Councillor Johnson, I ask you to close.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, we are talking about a local development plan, not a local area plan. It is about developing this area. I feel that notwithstanding what has been said, we cannot go ahead with this plan until we have assessed the existing buildings for their heritage status for the reasons I outlined earlier. There's more to this than just safe entering and leaving Morrison Road, although the plan is very clearly about that, but it also impacts on the heritage buildings on Byers Road. So for that reason, and I do acknowledge it's not about road widening, because the buildings we're particularly interested are on Byers Road and not on Morrison Road. I do believe that the case has not been made to go ahead with this before we've completed the heritage assessment. I think it would be a good thing to do, and isn't going to be. It will just be a twinkling in the eye of the history of Byers Road if we wait another few months. So I strongly urge councillors to wait a few more months until we have these heritage assessments completed, which I believe will be in sometime in October, I heard. So that's not long to wait. So thank you very much. Please vote for my motion.
Okay. Those in favour? I've Councillor Jones, Councillor Prodovnik, Councillor Catalano, Councillors Kiley, Johnson, Scanlon and Richardson. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And Councillor Congredon. So, and we've got now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Motion's carried. Okay, we're going to go to 4.1, the renaming of sections of Liberté Crescent, Baskerville. Councillor Henderson.
Thank you, Mayor. I move the Council resolve to 1, propose the name Catcham Corner. 2, the road name change will run from Murrin Rise to Swinell Trail. And 3, submit the name change Catcham Corner to Landgate, noting the name's non-compliance with the Australian standards and Landgate naming guidelines. And the reason for the changing for the officer's recommendation: 1, there is no accent over the word resulting in mispronunciation of the name. 2, to minimise problems with emergency services identifying the street. And 3, naming is in accord with other marine animal street names in the area.
Seconder. Seconder, Councillor Zanino. Anyone against? Good. Carried. Now go to item 4.3, the closure of Morella Road, Bullsbrook. Councillor Kiley.
Not just yet, but it will be soon.
Would you like me to read the whole thing, Mayor, or would you like me
No, just paragraph 4.
Paragraph 4. The only change, councillors, I have to the motion is to 4, request the CEO to provide a report to a future meeting of council on options for improving the long-term safety at the intersection of Morella Road and Railway Parade, including consideration of the rail crossing.
Reason?
The reason being is to allow council the opportunity to consider the options for upgrading the intersection and making it safe.
Okay. Seconder. Councillor Scanlon, I think it was. Anyone against? You are, Councillor Henderson? Wish to debate it? Okay, in that case. Those in favour? It's all council with the exception of Councillors McCulloch and Councillor Henderson. Okay, carried. Next item is 4.5, Development WA handover of capital projects. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My motion is that Council resolve to not accept the handover of the Workshops Avenue and Lot 797 Clayton Street WA Police District Drainage Upgrade Capital Projects. 2, return the remaining funding for the Workshops Avenue project to Main Roads WA with the recommendation that the road not be constructed. 3, to authorise the CEO to enter into an agreement with Development WA to accept handover of the following capital projects as outlined in the attached proposal and associated funding of $1,457,000. A. Lot 1, Water Tank Way, Water Tank Park. 4, advise Development WA accordingly. 5, I think we got the reasons twice. 5. The reason for changing the CEO's recommendation is that the proposed alignment of Workshops Avenue will have a serious detrimental environmental impact on the Helena River floodplain. 2, will destroy many large and old-growth flooded gums that provide habitat for wildlife. 3, has not been assessed for its impact on Aboriginal heritage. B, no traffic study has been done that has justified the need for this road. And C, lots 797 Clayton Street, WA Police District Drainage Upgrade cannot go ahead without Workshops Avenue. Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, that's right.
Seconder. Councillor Scanlon. Is there anyone against? There is. You wish to debate it, Councillor?
I'm going to prefer Councillor Prodovnik's deferral motion.
Okay, so... Okay. Well, I'm against too, so I'd like to debate it. So, Councillor Johnson.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, when Workshops Avenue first came up during the budget process, it was interesting. What was that we were spending $5 million on? So it's taken this far to find out what it is. So weekend before last, I went for a walk with Councillor Catalano along the alignment of the road, and I was interested to find that it is going through an alignment which is, as we've seen from Mr. Coaton's email this afternoon, it's just a tiny bit outside the official floodplain, but nevertheless it is a contiguous, uninterrupted part of the landscape. It includes many very healthy-looking flooded gums, obviously over 100 years old, or Councillor Catalano assured me they were, and I've no reason to doubt it, and they were pretty big trees. They're absolutely massive. It's my view that these trees ought to be retained, and this beautiful landscape ought to be retained to support the Helena River floodplain. Now, in terms of planning, this plan is inconsistent with the Swan and Helena Rivers Management Framework Report, which is from 2007, as well as being inconsistent with the City of Swan's own local biodiversity strategy. In particular, the area appears to be part of a regional ecological linkage, and we heard a bit about that in Woodbridge, and a protected area, as identified in the city's own local biodiversity strategy. The removal of the remnant vegetation cannot be justified, namely the magnificent flooded gums that provide shade, habitat and so forth to urban Midland. So it helps to cool down Midland. And the negative effects of the construction phase will obviously do a lot of damage to the river. It's also thought that ongoing pollution of the river post-construction will occur, and there will be a loss of public amenity. So this natural area is so close to the Midland Hospital and the new private hospital has the potential, Mr. Mayor, to become part of a nature walk, to provide peace and healing to patients, staff and visitors, or even visitors to Bunnings. A boardwalk could be constructed to allow easy access and provide educational signage about local species and to connect with the nearby Coal Dam Park, and also possibly that it is also connected through to the Woodbridge nature corridor that we heard people from Woodbridge talking about at the previous council meeting, or was it earlier in this meeting? This could be a huge asset to the Midland community, and it would be a terrible thing to allow its loss. So, councillors, really what we ought to be doing is establishing a river precinct that's got a strong connection to the Midland Town Centre. That plan should include a landscape master plan to improve the quality of the site, so preserving the beautiful trees and wonderful open space, a provision of a recreation trail along the foreshore, investigate locations for appropriate river crossings, a conservation plan for areas of ecological significance, an interpretive signage, and so on and so forth, Mr. Mayor. So basically, it's a wonderful opportunity to create a nature reserve that is almost right slap bang in the centre of Midland. So the last thing you do is to put a road through it that we don't even have a justification for. We don't even know why the road needs to go in that particular location. There are plenty of roads. You can easily get more roads, councillors, but you can't buy more flooded gums, you can't buy more floodplain, you can't buy more beautiful natural land such as this. So, councillors, if you've not been down there, you really should. It's absolutely beautiful. It's almost slap bang in the centre of Midland. We need to preserve it. And I'll be really honest, I only just found out about it myself. So, councillors, I urge you to vote for my motion. It's too good to lose. It's absolutely beautiful. And there aren't any other floodplains available to us in any other part of the city that we can preserve so close to our strategic metropolitan centre. So, councillors, I urge you all to vote for my motion. Thank you.
Councillor Scanlon as a seconder.
Nothing further to add, thank you.
Councillor Lucas, you should speak against the motion.
Well, I do, because there's a deferral motion put up by Councillor Podolnik, and I prefer that motion. I'll just get the page ready.
Did you wish to speak on this one?
Which is defer making a decision on entering into the agreement, so we can be further briefed to have the environmental other assessments done, the Traffic Management Association with these projects, because my understanding is this road has already been put into the MRS, so whether the City of Swan builds it and gets paid to build it, employs our own staff to build it, if not, the main roads will have somebody else build it. Thank you.
Speaker for the motion. Councillor Catalano.
Yes, thank you. Yes, when I went down there that weekend, I was absolutely shocked to see what was being proposed. In fact, at first I thought that we were going at the back of the police facility, and then I realised that actually 5 metres down into it might not be categorised as floodplain, but it is 5 metres down from the level of Midland, and that is where the road's going to go. And yes, it's got the beautiful trees and also a wetland in there, and quite a big wetland. Actually, probably one of the most beautiful places left in Midland, actually. And it's right adjacent to conservation category wetlands. My first thought was, well, why hasn't the state government built this? And do you know what? I think it's probably because actually it's too hard, and also because it's too expensive, because we're talking about a standalone road that has to be built up in basically a basin, a river basin, that has to be at least 5 metres high. I mean, this is a massive job, 1/2 kilometre long. It really is a massive job, and like Councillor Johnson, I really didn't know anything about it. I don't remember the community being consulted about this road. When the MRA put out its concept plans many, many years ago, the community was just told that that's it, they're just a concept, there's nothing set in stone. And I do understand that it may be on the MRS, but I do know of plenty of roads in Midland, well, actually I do know a couple that have been on the MRS that are no longer on the MRS, so it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be built. And actually, every time I ask for why it needs to be built, surprisingly I get a different answer. And I first heard that if you look on the websites, the state government, federal government website, it's because of a freight link. Well, I really do not think that now, with the build-up there in that area, Clayton Street, that there's going to be any freight coming over from Hazelmere and connecting through Midland to get to the rail highway. So it's obviously not a freight link. Then I was told it's going to be a direct access to the new junction. Then I thought, well, how many sets of traffic lights? We've got to go past the railway. We've got to go through Great Eastern Highway. It's like, no, that's not going to be... surely that's not the case. So now we're talking about access to a car park. I'd like that cleared up, and it hasn't been cleared up. So, but really my main problem is the amount of money that we've got from the state government, which was the 5.1 million, is that going to be enough to cover this project? Because it looks like it's a fairly massive project to me. Now, I've asked for costings, and I've even asked for costings, stage costings, and I've been told that yes, we've had an estimate and it's going to cover it. But I think we really do, as a council, need to go into this project with our eyes open, and we need to ask ourselves, why didn't the state government complete it, and why are they handing it to us? I do understand that we want to find work for our contractors, but at the same time, we've got a duty to our ratepayers. If this is going to cost more than 5.1 million, then we need to know what those costings are pretty thoroughly. So I think I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other speakers against the motion? Question, Councillor McNamara.
It's to Mr. Corton. Mr. Corton, with regard to the floodplain, or this so-called swamp area, is it possible that all the nice things that Councillor Johnson is asking for could actually be developed after that road is put in, like the boardwalk and all of those other issues from the point of view replacement of trees and all of that?
Mr. Coden.
Well, it would be possible to put a boardwalk down there. That's not part of this project, but a boardwalk would be possible if council chose to put something there.
Thank you, Mr. Corton. And the last question, Mr. Corton, is with regard to the road. I asked you a question this evening about the height above the floodplain. How far above that would the road be? Because I was originally going to support this, except when I saw Councillor Podovnik's motion with regard to the costing and with regard to the height of this particular road against the actual flood.
So it would be built up several metres. The height that it's built up would vary depending along the alignment of the road. So obviously the starting points, the fixed points, are the roundabout at the intersection with Lloyd Street, and the road down at the other end at Centennial or Water Tank Way is where the road would tie into, and it generally follows that height that along the alignment, obviously up and down a bit, but it's several metres built up, 2 to 3 metres above that area, or more in some cases, some areas.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, councillors, and I rise to speak against this motion. Councillor, to make it clear that this road was approved by the WA Planning Commission when considering the redevelopment of the Midland Workshop area. But I draw your attention, and it's mentioned in the report, item came to this council back in the 8th of May meeting 2019, which says, request the CEO to request that the MRA offer additional MRA assets in Midland and Woodbridge to be transferred to the city as compensation for the $8 million shortfall of funding to report to council. To record the reasons for changing the recommendations are, City of Swan ratepayers should not be burdened with the cost for such works that the MRA failed to complete, and for works that the community rightly expect to be completed. 2. City of Swan ratepayers have an expectation that council will be able to negotiate a favourable outcome for the ratepayer. C. The City of Swan ratepayer are to commit municipal funds to complete unfinished work. The city should be compensated for any cash shortfall by equitable transfer. Councillors, attached to that report were a list of projects, and I'll list them for you. Lot 44 Grayson Highway, Railway Square, Lloyd Street, Water Tank Park, 797 Clayton Street, Centennial Place, Clayton and Cowie Roundabouts, Workshop Avenue. Now, rather than hand over assets, the MRA went ahead and completed some of those projects and then offered the city cash to complete those projects, including $5.1 million for Workshop Avenue, which currently sits in our bank. Ready to spend. That motion went through council unopposed, unanimous. It said, we went to the MRA and said there is an $8+ million shortfall that we require to be taken care of. Now they've done that. We're also offering another 2-point-something million to finish the rest of those projects, to complete projects that our community expect should be completed. Unanimous decision. Councillors like to point out the mover of that motion. The successful motion was Councillor Johnson, the second was Councillor Kiley, and we all agreed. And the MRA did what we asked. They did what we asked. Thank you for interrupting me, Councillor. So now we have a situation where we're going to say, you've done what we asked, thank you for the money, but you can have it back. The other point I want to raise is this. Councillor Johnson rightly says that without the construction of Workshop Avenue, the drainage for lot 797 Clayton Street cannot be completed, which means that the works cannot go ahead for the Police Operations Centre, which is to be built on that site, which means they can't build it, and the road not being built won't give them additional access. Further, at the end of that street is a proposed site in the short term for a car park, in the long term, new stage for the hospital. So there are ongoing benefits to our community that they expect us to fulfil. $5.1 million sitting in the bank, councillors. Never, ever give money back to a government agency. So, councillors, no more stance, thank you. Now, Speaker for the motion. Any speakers for or against? Councillor Johnson, if you'd like to close.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Look, Mr. Mayor, we certainly did ask them to give us assets in compensation, but we didn't expect them to take away an asset, i.e. a beautiful floodplain that the community would wish to retain. So it's $5.1 million to build something we don't want. Maybe if they let us spend $5 million on a nature reserve or to turn it into a nature reserve or a boardwalk, I think we would get strong community support for that. Councillors, at the time that we approved this workshop avenue was still a sort of fairly nebulous concept. We didn't really know what it was. It's really in the last few weeks that we've actually started to see plans. We see where it's going. It's not easy to track down what it is, but I've walked along the alignment now and I can see this would not be something that would meet with community expectations. It's been described as a swamp, but it's a beautiful swamp. Swamps are natural environments, and I'm sure we could make a fantastic boardwalk there. So, addressing the issue that's already in the Metropolitan Regional Scheme, just because it's in the regional scheme doesn't mean that we have to build it. I think we heard that point from Councillor Catalano. So many times we hear, oh, we've already decided to do that. We go, oh, hang on a minute, let's throw the brakes on. We've discovered that we're planning to spend $5.1 million on something that we just don't want. So it's never too late in a democracy, and this is one of those times. Councillors, it's another row 8. It's our own mini row 8. We've discovered at the last minute we've got a beautiful environment. And as for the freight link, haven't we decided to move the goods line out of Midland, so we're not going to need any kind of freight interconnect in this location? There are plenty of roads. We don't need this one. Just one extra point I'd like to add, Mr. Mayor. I forgot to attribute the Lower Helena catchment group for all of the information I gave you earlier. So particularly Dr. Harriet Mills, who provided me with a lot of that ecological information, which I'm sure you realise wasn't something that I put together. So, councillors, we've got an absolute gem of a ecological and environmental opportunity here for something really beautiful for our city. We're not going to be buying any more swamp or any more river plain or any more flooded gums. They're extremely rare. There are very few left. So, councillors, I urge you to reject this development and support my motion. Thank you.
Those in favour? I have Councillor Catalano, Councillor Kiley, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Scanlon, Councillor Richardson. The rest are against. The motion fails. Councillor Prodovnik takes to your alternative.
Okay, so I'm asking Council resolves to defer making a decision on entering into an agreement with Development WA to accept handover of capital projects as outlined in the attached proposal and associated funding of $2,287,000 until Council has a briefing that includes the costings, design, environmental impacts, heritage assessments and traffic management associated with these projects. Now, the reason for this deferral is to ensure Council more fully understands the challenges and benefits of accepting or rejecting responsibility for these proposed projects.
Seconder? Okay, I'll get the seconder first. Seconder? Councillor Scanlon beat you to it, I think. Councillor Congleton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The $5.1 million currently sitting in our bank, does that remain there and not be returned with this deferral?
Mr. CEO.
That's correct.
Okay.
Amendment, Mayor.
Well, let's hear it first.
The report and briefing. I was seeking a written report and briefing.
Well, I think it says till Council has a briefing. It already says briefing.
A written to include a written report and briefing.
That's what will happen anyway. Okay, I got a question, Mr. Vanderlyn.
Sorry.
Well,
I have got an amendment, Mayor. I did propose it. I've just.
Well, is that okay with the mover and the seconder?
To be honest, I'd really appreciate a briefing where we can sit down and actually have a bit of a chat as a first step, and then obviously how it progresses, it progresses. I'm not so sure we need a report in the first instance. It's literally a briefing.
Seconder? Okay. Well, the mover's not accepting it, so it can't become part of that without going to debate. Okay. I just have a quick question of Mr. Vandal and Mr. Coaten. Of those reports, are they currently underway, the environmental and the heritage and traffic? Are they currently underway, Mr. Coaten?
There's not a traffic report underway, but there are a number of environmental reports underway, and an Aboriginal heritage study are currently underway.
Okay. Thank you. Right. We've got a mover and a seconder. Is there anyone against? There's no one against. We'll kill it carried. Now, 4.7 is the fencing works at Percy Cullen Oval, Gidgegunnup. Councillor Henderson.
Question, Mr Mayor. Not quite sure what happened there. When you were putting the motion, I think you were putting the amendment, and nobody was against the amendment. So now we've got to go back to the substantive motion. No, there was, because Councillor.
No, I didn't, because it wasn't accepted by the mover, so therefore it didn't become the motion.
Yeah, but then
Kylie didn't ask.
But then we moved to debate, surely.
Well, no, I didn't.
Well, we did. It was seconded.
I didn't push it with me.
We did.
Put it to the mover.
Well, the mover and seconder can oppose it, but at that point we moved to debating the amendment.
Mr Mayor, for the sake of moving the meeting on, I'd happy to withdraw it at this moment.
Thank you, Councillor Kylie. Okay. Councillor Henderson.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillors, I move the council resolve that 1, the lock gate to Percy Cullen Oval be retained. 2, request the Gidgegunnup Recreation Club to implement a system whereby approved users hold keys and sign for them. 3, gate keys to be made available by the Gidgegunnup Recreation Club for others to gain access on an ad hoc basis, and being required to A, show identification, B, sign for a key, C, provide a contact phone number, D, be responsible for the use of the key and to return it within a reasonable time frame. 4, a register to be retained by the Gidgegunnup Recreation Club of those taking a key as detailed in 3. 5, residents to be advised of access to the Oval through regular notices in the Gidgegram or other local media. 6, a sign to be posted on the gate advising A, advising where a key can be obtained. B, reminding users to note if there are any other users at the Oval. Let me read that again. Remind users to note if there are others at the Oval and to lock the gate if if they are the last out. Should have my other glasses on. And C, a phone number to call should anyone be inadvertently locked in. Reason for the change to minimise the risk of vandalism to the facility, outdoor gymnasium equipment, damage to the Oval by hooning activities, and rubbish being dumped in the bush reserve.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Zanino. Is anyone against? Question, Councillor McNamara.
Question is, would the proposer, Councillor Henderson, be prepared to actually have a review after 2 seasons at this situation to see how the actual users of this thing get on? Because from my personal experience, keys to ovals are a disaster from the point of view of ownership, because there is it's like somebody putting a uniform on. They think they have all the power in the whole wide world. So thank you.
No, Mr Mayor, I think given the consultation and the process we've been through over quite some time, the motion should stand as is.
Okay, and the CEO has just advised me they keep it under review if there's any
It
issues.
is a matter we'd keep under review. Councillor McNamara, anyway.
Okay, there was no one against. We declare that carried. That takes all items in Part B. We now go to Part C. A motion from Councillor Parry in regards to passenger rail station at Henley Brook. He's not in. He has not informed me of anyone to move that motion, so that one lapses. Councillor Henderson on 1.2 is a road noise report, Northlink.
Thank you. That council resolved to 1, direct the CEO to write to Main Roads WA requesting a copy of the road noise report review being undertaken by a consultant for Main Roads on the Northlink road surface noise when it becomes available to them, and 2, make the report publicly available for residents to review. And the reasons for the motion, many residents in Ellenbrook and Bullsbrook have raised concern about the level of noise being generated by the chip seal on Northlink. B, recent noise level monitoring has been undertaken by Main Roads on their contractor to determine if there has been a reduction of noise with the seal having bedded in. And C, the residents want to see the results to determine if the claim is verified that noise levels will reduce substantially over time.
Thank you. Councillors, have a seconder? No second. The motion. Death not. Councillor Jones. Is anyone against? So that carried. Notice of motions for consideration at the following meeting if given during this meeting. Councillors, any?
We have a number already come up, Mr Mayor.
They've already been submitted?
Maybe some others.
Okay.
Yes, I'll be putting one forward.
Another.
Amending roughly.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Layton, I'll forward it to you.
Seen that, thank you. Okay, councillors, if we have none, that takes us now to confidential items. A motion to go behind closed doors. Move Councillor Congdon, second Councillor Jones. We can turn off the recording.